Welcome back to Healing Conversations with Gloria and Ingrid. Today, we are inspired to explore the concept of, does anyone like me? And what brought this up for me was just thinking about the different types of friendships that I've had, the different kinds of relationships. And, what makes a friend? What comes up for you, Ingrid, when you think about that?
I really love that you suggested this as a topic for conversation. It's not coincidentally been coming up for quite a few people that I've been working with recently, and I've been reflecting on it for myself too, and on the way that my experience of friendship has changed over the years as I have become more, I suppose, aware of the ways in which I've been wounded around friendship and what I've done in response to that. And I guess the journey towards having what I now feel to be really, really solid and nourishing friendships, and what sustains those. So that's what comes up for me.
Yeah. Well, it's come up for clients in my sphere too. And, one of them is really noticing what are the beliefs that tend to start running unconsciously, that begin to drive the behavior, those conditioned experiences that create that doubt, because it's doubt.
Yeah.
Doubting self.
Yeah. And then once the doubt is present, it can be almost that sense of observing friendship from the outside.
Yeah.
Like there's a barrier, subtle or not so subtle, between us and the world of friendship that seems to come so easily to others. We can often be thinking that could be one of the stories that we're running, but look at those people over there, they seem to do this so easily. I wonder if there's something wrong with me. Yeah, because it just doesn't seem to be easy for me.
Yeah. I remember when I was younger, I would have that experience, only maybe not as clear inside, but I would have the experience of almost like an invisible wall, and inside I'd be thinking, what am I supposed to talk about next?
Yeah.
Because I'd be so hijacked in thinking I'm supposed to be doing something other than I am. I couldn't relax into being who I was.
Yeah.
And part of that, I'm guessing, is the belief that I lack, that I'm not enough.
Yeah. And sort of sometimes embedded in that too is the belief that if I kind of said what I thought I was going to say, then people would reject me or judge me or think I was stupid or weird.
Well, so especially if I get excited about something.
Yeah.
And my energy comes up.
Yeah.
Then I might get the message, or I might perceive, even if it's not actually what's happening, I may perceive that I'm too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just need to simmer down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That sort of response. And it's funny as I think about it, and I think, I suppose I do remember some instances of it, of, as you say, something that I was really excited or enthusiastic about that nobody else got, and one of the really painful experiences in life is having our life energy come up in that way for something that matters to us, and having it not caught, not received. It's like I always feel it's like this experience of, falling splat on the concrete and the shock of that,
Oh, yes, and the sting. Oh.
Yeah. And then it's a shame experience, actually, the flavor of it. for me. And I
Definitely.
notice, you know, even as I'm reflecting on that further right now, that as I have become more self-validating, those experiences don't sting much anymore. They still do sometimes, but mostly I just go, oh well, it's obviously not their thing. So I'll just go over here and continue to be enthusiastic about it.
What I love about that is hearing how you don't take it personally.
Yeah.
And that you still own, like, well, this is still really juicy for me. I wonder where I can share it.
Yeah, that's right.
I know there's some place that I could just tune in.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, well. And in the meantime, I'll just continue to explore it, you know, for myself. Yeah.
And letting that be all right.
And letting that be all right.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the concepts that I found really, really supportive actually in consolidating my capacity to do that is an idea that you introduced me to, which is the window of welcome.
Yeah.
You know, that we all have a window of welcome for different emotional flavors, and also, and this is the really relevant piece actually for this conversation, we have a window of welcome for levels of aliveness.
Mm-hmm.
And so what struck me actually about those moments where my enthusiasm and excitement is not met by the person that I'm speaking with is that I can go, I wonder if I've just, you know, inadvertently kind of gone way outside their window of welcome for aliveness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And as you say, and you're not having to take it personally, and it just becomes so that could be what that is.
Yeah, so there's a curiosity and an interest, but also a really strong self-connection of where your vibrancy is. And I want to I love that example, and the same can be true so much with the heaviness of the energy of grief.
Yeah.
Because
that's
not only the aliveness, but then the grief, that there can be a void of capacity in our environment that's able to meet us where we are when we express authentically our grief, our sadness. It can be so uncomfortable for others.
Yeah.
And then the shame is because not only am I being vulnerable, because both are vulnerable.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Because we're showing up very authentically. And so the crash into the dorsal vagal shame is excruciating.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. What else comes up? So that's been one of the really painful aspects of sort of negotiating friendship for me from when I was quite small. I'm wondering what have been some of the characteristic painful parts of negotiating friendship for you?
Well, part for me that I've noticed the pattern was that I would tend to take responsibility for anything that went, quote, wrong. It was always my fault. I'd believe it was my fault.
Right.
If only, and then I would ruminate, well, if only I hadn't done XYZ, or if only I had done PDQ, or whatever it was, that I would automatically go to take responsibility. And so there was a learning of that everyone, you know, each being is responsible for their own energy. Yeah. That was a foreign concept to me.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
And so being able to actually learn that, find a place that it's safe to learn that what I believe might not be true. That's been quite a journey. And a place that it's safe to explore those inner musings. Because many times when someone feels really fragile around closeness in relationship, it's never been truly safe for whatever reason to honestly express the experience. And so our bodies need to have that neuroception of safety to even begin to expand a window of tolerance to go there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, there's like little mini micro baby steps that I needed to take along the way to develop the courage to actually get to know what my truth is.
Yeah, because otherwise, you know, without that perception and neuroception of safety, we're in a very cold place.
Yeah.
Around ruptures or failures of friendship. And I'm just sitting and remembering what that felt like for me as a child. You know, think about primary school experiences. And I can feel in my body to this day what those moments felt like, and how, you know, my perception was that there was nothing that could be done.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, it's just hopeless and cold and lonely. And a sense of being isolating, being within myself. Yeah. And separate.
Being different, and that was not okay.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it was very confusing, bewildering. And also not really having a map of what might be different.
No.
And so, but what have you experienced as possible, Ingrid?
In terms of what's possible if we can learn to support ourselves to come through and out the other side.
To stay relational.
Yeah, to stay relational. I suppose it's been long progress out of that, and this is sort of an intermediate step, which for me was really important. I think was the getting to experience as my world broadened. You know, after I finished school and I went off to university, and I, you know, met new people, and then in the work world met more new people, and you know, there's a lot to be said for actually having experiences of being around people who are more like you, you know, because I suppose what I'm trying to say there is that we can end up with a template and an experience and some stories around friendship that come from a time in our lives where actually the conditions for good friendship weren't particularly promising. You know, maybe the pool was really small, you know, and
not many fish in the sea.
Not many fish in that particular tiny pond. And so you know, I certainly ended up with a perception of myself as more different and weird and whatever than I had later on, as I started to meet a wider cross section of people and have those moments where you go, you know, what's just come out of that person's mouth kind of speaks to stuff that I've had inside me, you know. So that lovely sense of permission giving that those wider contexts give us. So I think that was a really important part for me. But the other, so from there, that started to change the story that was happening inside me, I suppose, of, you know, I'm different and weird and you know,
I love hearing that, because I'm imagining many of our viewers or listeners will really resonate with that, because, you know, starting out in that little tiny pond and then actually going and visiting other ponds and then finding actually, oh my gosh, there's an ocean out there. You know, it's like, wow. And having that experiential learning is very affirming of who you truly are. I know for myself, I didn't get a swim down that creek, right? And I felt like I actually was in a stagnant pond for a lot of my life. And it just that pond went to another stagnant pond. And it's like, oh my God, is that all there is to life?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, what was really the grace that came into my world was having a really attuned therapist that could actually see the light within me that I could not see for myself.
Yeah.
And could hear it in my words and could reflect that to me. And I would like be a little startled because I came up from a very traumatic, frozen place as a young one. And it carried through for quite a long time until I began to develop some resiliency that came through establishing a relationship of trust that even though I'm not anywhere near that person spatially, there's that firm connection in the heart that always stays with me.
Yeah.
And so how important that is to recognize that need in others.
Yeah.
And to offer that gentle accompaniment.
Yeah.
And meet them where they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they get to know themselves in a whole new way.
Yeah. And get also to have experiences where they, you know, we take the risk of expressing what's really inside us and finding that it's caught and held and doesn't end up, you know, falling flat and pitching us into a, you know, really painful experience of shame and isolation.
Yes.
You know, and starting to have this
no kidding.
experience. Yeah. Yeah.
And then having friendships that become very close and intimate and loving and juicy and then all of a sudden there's some life happens and you don't get to connect with each other and then those old whispers can come up. It's like, oh, well, I'm not important, I don't matter, and well, I'm not going to reach out, they're not reaching out. I mean, it could take many forms and yet that connection is still vibrant and strong, and when you get back together, it's like there you are, you know. There's I don't know, it's hard to put that into words, but the experience is healing each time it happens.
It is, yeah. It's a little bit like, you know, we talked about ruptures and repairs, you know, in one of our earlier conversations, and that actually until there's been a rupture that's been, you know, really, really well repaired, we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know, we're always waiting for for everything to fall apart. And one of the most important things that we need to experience in friendship as well as in, you know, intimacy, you know, with a partner is that there can be a rupture and it's okay.
Yeah, so kind of having a reciprocal agreement or an understanding that that time will be taken to repair.
Yeah.
Because it matters, because you matter. The relationship matters.
Yeah. And that in that process, it's not about making one person wrong. Because I think, you know, I think that, for again, reflecting, you know, for myself, I think some of the, there was certainly a sort of a default setting or a belief back in the day that if something went wrong in a friendship, then somebody was wrong, me or the other person, and I just don't think I had the capacity to negotiate that in any helpful way. And so then, of course, my instinct would be to either make a break in the friendship because it didn't feel resolvable, you know, or to continue with the friendship without ever addressing it. Both of those work really well, right?
Exactly. Or it may have just felt like it was too much to deal with. I mean, that's the not having the capacity to hold the container.
Yeah.
And I want to acknowledge that's what, as humans, we do when we don't have access to our body's wisdom. We blame in order to try and integrate and make sense of something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to hold that with a lot of gentleness.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Or we blame in order to put the pain somewhere else. You know, because we're, you know, I was thinking, and I was talking to somebody the other day about this and how helpful I found it as a way of recognizing the kind of felt sense signature of the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, that the left hemisphere, you know, does blame and the right hemisphere does mourning. And I know that's an oversimplification, but it's kind of, for me, a really helpful way of remembering that there's an alternative to blame, and this is what it feels like.
Yeah, so calling a little bit of a pause right there, because that's a really big truth to really actually take in, that there is that option available when we can begin to practice feeling into it. And that's a practice that I have found really helpful, and one that we've experienced together, is the practice of really slowing down in the moment and quieting the mind and noticing what's happening in the body first. But then also tuning into what might that default mode network be telling me. You know, to slowly begin to unravel that pattern.
And so, you know, what I'm hearing you name there, Gloria, is a really important, simple practice that anyone who is wanting to deepen their friendships, or, you know, maybe someone's watching this and thinking, yeah, I'm still in a place where I feel like I don't really have the friendships that I'd like to have in my life. You know, and that practice you've just named of really slowing things down, noticing what's happening in our body, noticing the emotional flavor of that, and the stories that, you know, you might be telling yourself about that, is a way of deepening self-connection and opening a space for possibility, for something new to emerge, and how you are kind of with others and how they might be with you.
And it can be helpful to have accompaniment with that.
Definitely.
And once we begin to notice what the pattern is, if there's someone that we have been building trust with, to bring in some compassion, so we can actually exercise our own self-compassion muscle, because for most of us, we need that accompaniment to actually build that to be a place where we can hold it for ourselves.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I think, you know, it's that absolute truth in all of this work, that until we have experienced it from another, with another, with another, then we are going to struggle to really offer that to ourselves to begin with. Because
we need to embody it.
We do.
And that means we need to, like, slow down, come into the body and out of the mind. And so when we're trying to learn something new and we're trying to track it, we're automatically getting out of our body. And so I guess another way that might be supportive for listeners is there can be some very nice, gentle practices that you can listen to that can guide you. And so those are mindfulness practices or guided visualizations that are centered on this. And I know I have a few that I have available for my clients. You've created some of those too, haven't you, as resources?
I have, on resources on my website, and I'm very very aware that there's a few others that I have said to people that I would get up on my website, but I haven't yet. So I haven't forgotten.
Note to self. Yes.
Note to self. That's right. And I think it's important to maybe say, just in passing there too, that particularly if we have experienced trauma, relational trauma, it's actually important to work with guided visualizations and meditations rather than try to rely on kind of an unguided meditation practice that can actually be not so helpful. So that the kind of guided processes that you and I are talking about right now, particularly important for people who've got a history of relational trauma.
Yeah. So really paying attention to that and allowing ourselves to receive the type of support and care that we need, so that we can begin to open up that window first of tolerance in order to discover the window of welcome.
Yeah, that's right.
So if people are wanting to get to find those resources that you have, where can they reach out?
The easiest way is simply to go through my website. You can find me at www.ingridgunby.com. And how about you, Gloria?
Same. You can find me at my website, healingyoursanctuary.com, and you can contact me and we can explore what resources are going to best fit you. Yeah. Thank you, Ingrid. I love this exploration. I don't know. Each time we get to connect and have this conversation, it's a healing conversation for me.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I look forward to the next time.
Me too. Yeah, see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.